Only cooking TikTok recipes for a full day. The first recipe I saw was for bacon pancakes, and I've never made bacon in the oven before, but it totally works. It's like way easier and less messy, and you already know I got extra fluffy pancake batter, and you have to sing the bacon pancake song while you mix, like it's a requirement. And yeah, you just like plop the bacon in the mix and then cover it up and put it on the griddle, and it's like easy to flip, it's easy to make, and then I added some powdered sugar, of course, and it's kind of incredible. The bacon flavor kind of like seeps into the pancake mix, and it still has that crispy crunch, and then the pancake is super fluffy, and the salty bacon really helps cut the sweetness too. And then I saw a recipe for garlic bread grilled cheese, and I needed it immediately. So you make the garlic butter with like parsley and salt and pepper, and then you just spread it on the outside of the bread, and then you put the cheese on the inside, and my whole kitchen smelled like cheesy garlic bread heaven. And you have to grate your own cheese for the best cheese pull. And then I used this red pepper tomato soup that was so creamy, and it was intense, like so rich and buttery, maybe a little too much butter, or maybe I just needed thicker bread, but I could only eat like half of it. It was a lot. And finally, I saw this rice bowl hack where you pack your rice around a bowl inside of another bowl, and then you flip it onto a plate, and it's supposed to make like an actual bowl of rice. The first one didn't work at all, so I used a smaller bowl inside of a smaller bowl, and this one kind of almost worked like halfway, but mostly it failed. And so I tried a smaller bowl inside of a bigger bowl, and y'all, it was so close. It held for like 2 seconds, but yeah, I don't know how you make this one work, so I just ate it like a plate of rice. And honestly, this P.F. Chang's beef and broccoli dish isn't my favorite. It's just so sweet, and the beef is a little chewy, but oh well, that's all for today. Only eating ramen for a full day in New York City. Maybe I was just starving, but this first bowl was the best ramen I've ever had in my life. It was this creamy, rich tonkatsu broth with this mountain of spicy paste, garlic oil, onion chip thing. It was so spicy it made me cry, but it was also so freaking flavorful. And the noodles were so thin and slurpy. And then they also had this special chilled noodle dish for summer, and oh my gosh, it had this peanutty sesame broth that was incredible, and more of that spicy chili oil, and this super tender chicken and crunchy onions and peppers, and it was like refreshing but somehow still so rich. And this next spot had a video menu where you can see each dish being made, and then I know it's not ramen, but Chris wanted to try the fried chicken, and it was almost caramelized, really sweet, so garlicky, and it came with this thick ranch. They also had these noodles with like concentrated sauces instead of traditional broths, and this curry one had this super crispy katsu, and the curry was thick and packed with flavor and heat, and it had these like tangy Japanese pickles. I think this one was Chris's favorite of the day. And then I got the spicy red chili ramen with dashi chicken broth that had so much salty, savory flavor, and yeah, it was so spicy, but the smashed egg really added like a richness that helped so much, and the bok choy was so crunchy. And finally, we had to try out Momofuku noodle bar, which was honestly a little disappointing. Like compared to the other two, I love their chili oil, and like the pork really had a nice smoky flavor, and the poached egg was good, but it just didn't have as much flavor as the other spots. I don't know why, but that's all for today. Only eating dumplings for a full day in New York City. First up, we had to go all the way out to Flushing, which is basically dumpling heaven. And this first spot had this sauce that was more like a sambal. So I was kind of scared it was going to be hella spicy, but it was like the perfect amount of heat. It was actually kind of sweet. And they were stuffed with pork and a little crispy too. And then we got some steamed ones that were so juicy and oh my gosh, like piping hot, super tender and comforting. And this spot had a bunch of pan-fried buns. Maybe they're not technically dumplings, but look at how fluffy. I couldn't resist. Absolutely amazing. So soft and so fluffy and juicy and savory and a little crispy and just heavenly. And then we headed to a spot in the East Village for some xiaolong baos, and they had chocolate ones. They had so many flavors, but yeah, these were filled with banana and Nutella, and they were so warm and gooey, and they fully melt in your mouth. We also tried the extra spicy ones, and the soup is just bursting with that spicy flavor. It like attacks your mouth in the best way, and then you add like the ginger vinegar soy sauce combo, and it is so flavorful, I can't. And we saved the best for last, y'all. Super taste in Chinatown. I've literally had dreams about these dumplings, especially the chili oil. Like, it is perfection. The delicious, warm sesame flavor with the spicy, crunchy chili flakes and like the soft, rich, meaty dumplings. There is nothing better. And these fried dumplings are tied for my favorite dumplings I've ever had. Their only competition is a little dumpling house in the Hutongs in Beijing, and it's just like everything you've ever dreamed a dumpling could be. And yeah, that's all for today. Trying the most unique slices of pizza in New York City. I had to go to Artichoke Pizza because they have some crazy flavors. Look at this monstrosity. It's smothered in this thick, creamy, buttery spinach artichoke sauce that's basically like a cheesy spinach artichoke dip on top of a pizza, but the crust was still so crispy, like it was kind of incredible. They also had a pepperoni square with vodka sauce that was, again, so buttery, like so rich, but the crust had this incredible crunch, absolutely fire. And finally, the crab slice that had this kind of garlicky crab sauce and so so much imitation crab. But it really wasn't fishy at all. It was probably my least favorite crust of the day though, like not very crispy. And then I keep hearing that Lindustry is the best pizza in the city, but they still have a lot of variety. They have a fig jam bacon slice. It's got these little balls of creamy ricotta and like the crispy salty bacon with the sweet sugary jam. So good. They also have house-made chili oil, and I heard the burrata slice was incredible, and like while the crust was really good, it was so perfectly crispy with a little fluffiness. The actual sauce didn't have a ton of flavor, but that's okay because I tried the spicy salami one and it went so well with the chili oil, like just enough heat to bring out all the flavors. And finally, we had to go to Village Square because these crunchy little squares are heavenly. It really makes you ask the question, how many pepperonis are too many pepperonis? And the answer is you can never have enough pepperonis. That's probably not true. But anyway, the hot honey also adds this like sweet spiciness, and the last bite is always so sad. Why does pizza have to end? And that's all for today. Only eating bagels for a full day in New York. I had to start at Liberty Bagels for their iconic rainbow bagel. This time I got it with Oreo cream cheese that tasted just like Oreo cheesecake. It was so thick and sweet. And please don't hate me, but it's so good toasted. It gets a little crispy, and like the warm bagel goes so well with the cold cream cheese. And they make their own brisket here, so I got this beautiful steak witch with yummy garlic mayo and crunchy onions. And the Asiago cheese bagel was like fluffy but still really chewy. And then Vinny, who I think was the manager, made us his all-time favorite bagel creation, which is bacon sriracha cream cheese on a jalapeno everything bagel with tomato. This is the best bagel I've had in my life. I'm not even lying. Like, it's spicy, it's juicy, it's so creamy and bacony and chewy, and I am in love. We also got the lasso, which had this like sweet tangy barbecue sauce and these big pieces of breaded chicken, so many onions and melty cheese. And I know it's bagel day, but Vinny said we had to try a Cuban panini, and I've been to Little Havana many times. This was one of the best Cubans I've had. Like, the pickles were so crunchy, the ham was really sweet, and it's not even on Cuban bread, but it was still so buttery. And then I went to Thompson Square Bagels, and they had so many different cream cheeses, so I got the French toast bagel that was beautiful, and the guy said to try apple cinnamon cream cheese, and it tasted just like fall. Also, the bagel was so soft. And then this one's called the Weezer, and it's got a bunch of bacon and chorizo, which I love. Like, it's so flavorful, it's spicy and a little sweet. And finally, I had to try out Essa Bagel, and I got Bev's favorite, which had so much of this creamy, delicious white fish salad and scallion cream cheese that had this little crunch and this like soft, buttery lox and onions, and somehow it's like so rich and decadent, but also kind of refreshing. And that's all for today. Everything I ate at Coney Island, we had to go to the first ever Nathan's hot dog for a chili cheese dog, and they piled it on, y'all. Like, so much salty, meaty chili and melty cheese. And the hot dog wasn't the snappiest or juiciest ever, but it does sort of feel nostalgic. But the fries were so good. They were so crispy, and they had bacon and ranch and these crunchy, spicy jalapenos, like pretty perfect. And then we headed to the boardwalk for a funnel cake, and they were fresh out of the fryer, piping hot with that perfect crunch. And they just have that unapologetic, like deep fried richness. I don't think they're overrated. I think they're fantastic. And then this spot had these huge lobster rolls that they pack full of meat, and it was on this Texas toast that was so buttery and so soft and fluffy. And the lobster was pretty tender, but it was also really well seasoned, so creamy and so peppery. And you already know I had to get ice cream. Well, actually it was gelato, and they like mix it up a little bit as they serve it, so it's like silky smooth and like kind of stretchy, so soft. And the strawberry cheesecake one had these big chunky ribbons of sweet strawberry jam. The Milano cookie one was good, but it didn't have quite as much flavor. But the Nutella one was as good as some of the gelato we had in Europe, like so freaking smooth and creamy. And then we stopped at this crazy candy shop, and I'm not a huge candy apple fan, so I got the marshmallows that were dipped in caramel and covered in crunchy sprinkles and M&Ms, and it was so fun, like fluffy instead of juicy like an apple. And then this cluster of walnuts had this thick sweet caramel and marshmallows, and I don't even know what else, but it was a lot, like so many nuts. And that's all for today. Trying the viral $150 cookies. So it's a box of 12. They're all different flavors, and just look at this gooey chocolate lava one. It tasted just like a gooey brownie, like super soft and rich. And this was called the James Dean Oreo, and it had this really chewy caramel and this like salty, crispy crust. It was the perfect texture. And sprinkle cookies always remind me of my childhood as a Publix cookie kid. They're so crunchy and so sweet. And then the s'mores one was probably my least favorite. It was a little cakey, and the marshmallow would have gone better with like a dark chocolate chip, I think. But you guys, this banana cream pie one was so moist and gooey, like a banana bread pudding or something. And they also have a cinnamon toast crunch one, which was also very nostalgic, and it had a great crunch, of course, but it was still pretty moist. And this blueberry muffin cookie had these super crunchy crumbles on top, and it tasted kind of like those Entenmann's like little blueberry muffin bites. And the red velvet one was so intensely chocolatey with this super sugary frosting in the middle. That was a lot. Wait, I take it back. The lemon bar, I think, was my least favorite. It tasted like those hard lemon candies that you suck on, like kind of artificially lemony, but really, really strong. But that's okay, because the chocolate chip one was perfect. so classic, like so much chocolate. It was really good quality too, and so salty, like just the perfect cookie. But my favorite one was the peanut butter cookie. It was perfection, like the best peanut butter cookie I've had in a while. So much peanut butter, but it wasn't too dry. It was so moist and nutty, and oh, it was so good. And finally, I tried the salted caramel macadamia one that was really, really salty, but like the perfect balance of sweet and nutty, and that's all for today. Only eating Ukrainian food for a full day. I headed to the Ukrainian village for this spot that sells Ukrainian soul food. Look at these gorgeous crispy potato pancakes. They were perfectly salty, and you dip them in applesauce for some sweetness or sour cream for some richness, and then I had to get borscht, and it was kind of incredible. It's this warm, savory soup with these soft, sweet beets and tender pork, and it came with this like super buttery bread to dip it in. It's so creamy too. And then I tried this stuffed cabbage dish called holubshi, and it's filled with this hearty, meaty rice mixture and smothered in mushroom gravy. And of course, I had to get vareniki because they're so soft, and they were filled with this juicy braised beef, and you dip them in their beet horseradish salad for a little kick, and it's so comforting. I also had to try the honey cake because it looked so beautiful. So it's this moist, sugary honey cake with layers of this fluffy, kind of tangy cream, and then it's got all these crunchy walnuts too. It's like the most amazing texture. And then I got some stuff to go. They have these blintzes, which are like Ukrainian crepes, and they're filled with cheese, and they came with this like really tart, sugary raspberry sauce. So soft. And finally, I had to try the fried vareniki because I can't resist fried food, and they were brunch ones. So they were filled with bacon, egg, and cheese, and they came with this like spicy sour cream. It was so good. And that's all for today. Only eating at restaurants on my block for a full day in New York City. New York is packed. There's like 17 different restaurants just on my block, so I had to try the only pizza spot, and you already know I'm a sucker for like a fluffy, crispy pepperoni square, and it had this amazing crunch. The crust was super buttery too, but the sauce could have been more flavorful. And then they had this giant chicken bacon ranch slice, and the ranch was like nice and tangy, but it just could have had more bacon, and the chicken was kind of dry. But the burrata one was so good. Oh my gosh, the crust was like perfectly crispy. The cheese was so creamy, and the sauce had a lot more flavor for some reason. And then you already know I had to check out my bodega. It's huge, and their menu is literally endless. And look at this gorgeous hero. They packed it with so much salty, savory chopped beef and this crispy bacon and this like soft, rich egg and chipotle sauce. It was delicious. And then they also have nachos, and he fried the chips fresh, like right in front of me. You can add all the toppings you want. So I got pickled jalapenos for some spice, and the chicken was really well seasoned, and it was so cheesy too. And finally, we had to try our local Indian spot, and I've never had paneer pakora, but it's like deep fried cheese that's kind of squeaky and firm, and the mint chutney had a little kick, but it was nothing compared to the tikka murg, like the super peppery, really spicy curry, and the chicken was so tender. Oh my god, it was like so much flavor and so much heat. And finally, I got the chili garlic naan, and maybe it's like the New York City water, but it was kind of chewy, like how New York pizza and the bagels have a little more chew factor. I don't know, but it was delicious. And that's all for today. Only eating cookies for a full day in New York City. Okay, first I had to go to this fancy French restaurant for a cookie everyone is calling the best cookie in New York City. It's chocolate chip and hazelnut. Honestly, I thought it would be a little gooier. It definitely had a great crunch, and the hazelnut was like so sweet it almost had a caramel flavor. It's a fire cookie, but not the best one in New York City if you ask me. And then I stopped at this dessert bar for a cookie skillet, and I'm such a sucker for these, like so unapologetically gooey, and it had salty, crunchy pretzels, and the ice cream was really creamy, and it was so buttery. Oh my god. But I think I was most excited for Chip City because these bad boys are thick, and this brown sugar chocolate chip one is such a classic cookie. Like, it doesn't pretend to be anything it's not. It's just a soft, buttery, warm cookie with nice crispy edges. On the other hand, this cookies and cream one is a little bit of a show off, you know? It's just jammed with Oreos and white chocolate chips, and like some of them are crunchy, but some are kind of melty, so it's great textures, but it's so sugary sweet. Oh my god. And this Nutella one was my second favorite of the entire day. It's got this warm, melty hazelnut spread with this like salty brown sugar dough. It's like an out-of-body experience for your taste buds, and again, so freaking buttery. And honestly, I've got to give it to Funny Face Bakery for the best chocolate chip cookie of the day. It's 6 ounces, so thick and like melts in your mouth, soft and warm and gooey and just like packed with chocolate. Really incredible. But I was not expecting my favorite cookie of the entire day to be their s'mores one, but it had these like caramelized crunchy graham crackers and melty marshmallows, and I don't know, it like seduced me in a way I did not see coming. And that's all for today.